Hello, welcome to those who have recently joined this group. We are just giving a couple more minutes so that a few more people can join us, and then we'll get started. So please be reminded to have your mics off so that we don't have any feedback. Thanks. Well, I think we can get started. This is a great opportunity to say hello, everybody, from wherever you are joining this meeting. I am Cecilia Santamarina. I'm very proud and happy to have been invited by the Art City Gallery and curator Maria Adela Diaz of this exhibit Equinox to facilitate, moderate this wonderful talk with such talented ladies. And well, thanks to Paul Linhard from Art City Gallery and to all of you for joining us. I have to say, this is a very extensive list of wonderful and talented female artists from Latin America and the US who are shown right now at the gallery, curated by Maria Adela Diaz. So I will proceed to say all of their names in a few minutes time. But right now we're going to have a great opportunity to go further into the practice and opinions and views of these three friends, I can say, but most importantly, three artists with strong voices and different ways of expressing their talent. So to get started, we'll welcome Maria Adela, of course, Sylvia, and Estefanía. We're going to get started with Estefanía to share with us a little bit of who she is, what's her practice, what's her passion. And thankfully, we will be able to also appreciate more of her art so that we can understand a little bit better what we have right now at the Art City Gallery is just a little bit of her extensive and monumental work that she does. So welcome, Estefanía, and please, from Guatemala, you are right now in Guatemala, right? So let's just check that your mic is on, it's on. Yes. And please just share with us your photographs. And well, I have to say that I was very lucky to visit her studio in Guatemala recently. And I think that the most nice part, Estefanía, or the most magical way to present you is that you have been able to kind of recreate that magic, that energy in different parts of the world as well. And given that there is not just about small or manageable pieces, but it's like buildings in a way. So just, you know, that I think is very interesting because one of the possible anxieties you get when you live away from your country, like myself and probably many of you as well, is how do you translate or transport the energy and the feel from one place to the other. Of course, it gets transformed, but I think, Estefanía, you have a lot of experience in that sense. And if you wish to start, just give us a little bit of a brief of who you want to be looked at, how do you feel, how do you present yourself? And for all of you, well, I do know her and I think she's a spectacular artist. So please go ahead, Estefanía.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. Welcome, everybody. Well, presenting myself, that's a thing that we all artists think about. Who am I? What am I myself or my work? Where am I? in these two spaces. So as artists say, we prefer to present or talk about our work and hopefully find through our works a way for you all to see us in it. So I choose 3 projects. One that I started like around 6 years ago, and then 2 more recent works that are represented in the gallery and the exhibition. So I will go and start sharing my, just tell me please if you see
Yeah,
it.
yes,
Yes.
it's perfect.
Okay. Okay, then this project, it's called Muñecas. Muñecas in English is dolls. Why this work? Why any idea of work do we work on, right? And we try to interpret it in art. I had this interest of talking about women and the role of women in history and the history of mankind. Now it's a thing that we are talking a lot, but some years ago it wasn't like a thing, like something important. So I started to investigate the role of women in different cultures, and I found so many stories. So I said, how can I make like a big picture out of women history and the roles in the history of the world. So I chose to work in one story out of every continent. In that moment, I was going to participate in a biennale, so I needed a doll that could leave the group and not leave a continent out. So I decided to work in 2 Asian dolls. Here you see them. So they are 8, even though we have 7 continents. And I'm not going to go inside this big work because I worked on it for 3 years and it's really big. It has from video, poems, photographs, portraits, the dolls themselves. They are made in ceramics. I work in ceramic, so ceramics is present in my work. In every work you will find ceramic, but it's not the only material. I share it with other materials in other manifestations, even when I work in video installations or in performance. Ceramic, earth, it's present. So these dolls are made out of ceramics with the technique, ancient technique of Japan that is called raku. I went to Italy. Interesting that I learned in Italy the technique of raku. I stayed there for a month and I already had the project developed. So I decided to stay and work on these 8 dolls. These 8 dolls that are 8 cultures, 8 races, 8 stories, 8 women, 8 dolls. They all speak about women's fragilities and strengths, assembled by their joints as antique dolls. If you see them, you will see some other photos, maybe here. They move. They are not puppets, but they can move. They are joined like the antique dolls. You can move their arms, their hands, their heads. And that's why I made a video. And after that, they invited me in France because they were interested to develop these dolls in stories for puppets theater. So it began to grow and reach other spaces. They are all naked as you see them, showing how we are all equals. We are formed by the same parts, bodies that we cover with costumes to give us identity and belonging, costumes that make us forget who we are and why do we exist. So through this idea of showing them how we equal, how different and equal we are, I decided only to cover their heads or their feet as a symbol of belonging. Not all of them have shoes, but they all have a symbol that represents the culture from where they come from. Each one has a poem describing her life, with features and experiences that inevitably both differentiate and unite them. Poems. When I write, and every time I develop a project, the first thing is an idea. Then I write about this idea. And after that, the last part is the art manifestation, the material manifestation. So when I write in poetry. Why? I don't know. But it's that the easy way for me to express my ideas and my feelings and my intentions. Here you can see one closely. This is the Latin American doll. And you have 4 views. She has her feet and her head with identity from her culture. And you can see the joints in her arms, her legs. Quickly, this is muñecas. If you go to my webpage, you will find everything. The whole project, the videos, everything. And maybe after the presentation, maybe we have time and we can put this short video, it's a short video, and you will see them moving, interacting between them. So going to the next project.
Thank you, Estefanía. Yeah, we could spend like days just talking about this beautiful project.
We don't have that much time. So I will jump directly to one of the pieces that are represented in the gallery. This is another thing. This is called nests. This project started with this inspiration. This is our Oropendula's nests. These birds make their nest on the top of the trees, and we have them in Petén, in the north part of Guatemala. They are in other parts of the country, in the world, but in Guatemala, the nests are just like this. I saw this nest so many years ago, and they stayed in my head and said, how can I interpret it? How can I talk about this? These are real pieces of art. So trying to find a way to interpret these nests, these marvelous nests, I went back to my childhood. And I remember in school, girls' school, where I started, they showed us how to knit with macrame. So there is where the macrame started to appear. And I started to use metal strings to try a way of interpret these nests. Here you can see with these are inox fields, just with macrame and leaving this, like trying to imitate nature. So this idea of the nests and the egg started to be developed. So why the nest? For the eggs. And what are eggs? What do eggs represent? Is life contained inside. So I had the opportunity to go to Japan, in Shigaraki. This is a very important ceramic center in Japan. I'm going to drink a little bit. And they invited me to develop a project with them. They said, you can come for a year. And I went for 1 month. And I worked there, as you can see here, the eggs. But I didn't imitate the egg as a form of the egg, but this sphere of life, what this sphere has inside of what it represents. So there I worked on these spheres. I made a lot of them in different sizes and work in 2 techniques. The raku appeared again. So you can see the first one, the big one, is raku. And the last one, the small one, is crackled glazing. We can go inside to ceramics and different techniques. I think it's not important now, but to talk about more of the concept. And then if you want, we can go and go inside the technique. So here is this big photo. You can see the raku technique. Raku, quickly, it's when you have a piece inside the oven at 950 degrees hot, you open the oven and you have this piece in 950 degrees hot. You take it out and you put it inside water. And this makes this like skin, like this surface that has this much texture and colors, and it's burned with fire and water. So you can never know what is going to happen. A lot of pieces break because this combustion between the fire and the water. But this is what makes the piece feel like it's alive. And this is the magic about ceramics. They talk for themselves. Each piece is unique. you cannot copy two pieces and have them identical. Well, if you do it in a fabric, but the artisanal way of doing each piece is unique. So this is the magic of this. So they become like a piece together, the nest and the egg. So I wrote a poem talking about this that I think will express my ideas and my philosophy out of this. Each one waves its own nest with the threads of its own life, threads with which we knit our nests in a transparent way, allowing to see through what we have done, what we wanted, and what we have said. A material record with personal form as an uncertain but sustaining armor. There are threads strong and eternal. There are threads that bind us from far away, that hold us gropingly or breaking us to stones. There are threads that become chains and nests that become caves. But there are threads of light and certainty that give us peace, that hold us strong. There are softer threads than happiness and stronger than absence. Without these threads, my God, who would dare to make a nest?
Oh, that's beautiful, Stefania. Thank you for sharing your poem with us, because it's really a privilege always to listen to the voice of the author, of the poet, sharing their creation. And I guess the same expression of poetry, even for you, changes from time to time as you yourself are evolving from when you created it to when you did these nests to now. So it's beautiful and it's a privilege. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And really to
Yeah.
help us understand how important it is to make one investigation, a research effort as well, of a technique that resonates with your practice as well.
That is really important. It maybe is not the most important, but everything joins and everything has a dialogue and importance in every project, right? Everything speaks. So from this investigating in materials and doing these fairs, these eggs, these nests, I don't know why, but because life is like that, terracotta bricks appeared in my life. And I said, what is a terracotta brick? It's ceramic. It's earth in a form put inside an oven. So it's ceramics. So I went to Guatemala looking out for these bricks, artisanal bricks, made in an artisanal and ancient technique that the Spanish brought to Guatemala. And I found these magical, incredible, I will show you after, kilns, wood kilns, where they fire these terracotta bricks. So I brought some terracotta bricks to my workshop and I made this first egg out of terracotta bricks, joining them with cement as construction. And then I had this big egg and I said, okay, then a big nest, not out of metal strings, but natural fabrics, the natural fibers. And I knit this big nest with this terracotta egg. And having this big nest, I said, what would happen if I make a big egg where I can sit inside with these terracotta bricks? I could build a big one. So here you see the first one. I make this big egg empty inside and I sit inside. In the moment I sit inside this big egg, I say, this is a temple. This is like the mother's womb. It's like going back inside to the origin of my life. So the door, I made it like the form of the la vagina?
Vagina.
The vagina. So life truly goes in through there. It's the door where life goes in and goes out. So it was amazing. It was like an experience. And I said, okay, if this eggshell, it's a temple. What is a temple? So I started to develop this idea out of temples and what temples are. Here you see that the kilns where the terracotta bricks are made. And when I had this big egg, this small temple, I said, where do I go with this piece that I cannot move? It's so heavy. It's building, it's construction. Said, okay, maybe I can do as the architects do and make small maquettes.
Like a model.
Like a model, 1/100
Scale.
So I go with these guys and I tell them, so could you make me these small bricks out of the terracotta, out of the same material? By hand. They do everything by hand. And they made them. So here you can see the proportions of a real brick and a small scale brick. So, okay, so the size and the weight started not to be a problem. But still, I wanted to build a temple. Why a temple? What is a temple? I started with all those questions. And I built this first temple, and I will show you what do all these pieces represent and why the egg is present everywhere.
Thank you, Estefanía. Have some water.
So much. Yes, yes.
Yes, so this temple is right now located at your studio in Guatemala, right? Yes, this one we're looking at, okay.
Yes. So temples in the world were created as escape routes for the soul, spaces where we isolate ourselves from the outside world and navigate through ourselves, common spaces for a personal research. Naos, this temple, was conceived as an entrance to a personal sacred place of interior contemplation, a place to connect with our own divinity, creation, and creativity. With its labyrinths and dense structure, it constitutes an orderly microcosmos. The egg, the oval or the cocoon, as its focal point, a symbol of the earthly life contained within us. So here you see, this is a view of the temple. And here you will find the different pieces of the temple. You see here, all these pieces represent something. So you see the oval, the big egg where you can sit inside, the columns. On the top of the columns, you have eggs. These 4 columns represent the 4 elements: fire, earth, water, air. You have in the left the fountain. It has in all where the water is dropping, you have eggs, and the fountain represents the water, the how you clean your soul, the baptism, the renewal, starting again. In the center, the Fibonacci wall, that is the perfect proportion, is like the growth of the snail.
The snail,
so,
yeah.
Everything represents and goes to the origins, the symbolisms and elements that you find in every religion and culture. So it's so interesting. We are so much connected. And why is it called naos? Naos in Latin means ship, la nave. Is the center of the temples. In Latin, the center of the temples is called naos, is the sacred space where only the selected ones enter, is where the ceremony is directed. So my idea, it was to build a temple where you can enter yourself and direct your own ceremony and find yourself and do your own rituals inside with the representation of a symbol that doesn't represent anything, but represents the basic element, the basic form where life starts. So the philosophy of this is almost all countries in the world have historically used terracotta bricks for construction, based on local terracotta and clay bricks, using local materials and using traditional molds and techniques. I intend to build, to build personal temples across different cultures, countries, and cities. I have been invited to build these now small personal temples in different, now in China, everything stopped because of the pandemic. but the projects are there and unfolding. So the idea is to go to any country where they invite me, work with local artisans, with local materials, bricks made, because you find them everywhere. Every culture have them, and build different temples where I go. So there I had this problem. How can I present different projects with these pieces that I cannot move? And there the idea of the maquettes appeared. As you can see here, you have 6 proposals, 6 maquettes that themselves are art pieces. These small elements are built in the same proportion as the big scale, in a small scale. And if you see in the left, putting them in different numbers and in different orders, you get different temples, different proposal for temples.
Beautiful. Stephanie, it's fascinating. I think that also, for me at least, is a big passion I have for miniatures, and then the models for me are fascinating as well, because not only they represent what we could see then later in the real, scale, human scale, but themselves are just like a little jewel that you have been also exhibiting elsewhere. So yeah, it's beautiful. I think we could spend a lot here. We're going to share your website with everybody so that they can see more. Yes. And then maybe a couple more minutes so we have time to listen to Sylvia and Maria as well.
Sure. We'll close now. This I will just show you. This is one maquette that it's underwater. So the magic of this is that terracotta bricks and cement can go into the water. So you can build one and put them in the sea, in a river, wherever, and visit it underwater. This is the magic of this material. Here I will go quickly. These are started to put covers on the temples. So this is a pyramid. This is una cúpula. The words are, ¿cómo se dice? Una cúpula? A dome. A dome here. You can see these are not, they have no structure, only bricks and cement built. And here quickly developing out of these investigations, and we were talking about how can we link different cultures, different materials. So I started to investigate out of Egyptian paste. Egyptians used ceramic to imitate lapis lazuli, this stone that they adored, and it was very expensive. So with ceramics, they imitated lapis lazuli, and it's called Egyptian paste. It hasn't been used a lot, and not in ceramics. So I'm now investigating out of this material, and if you want, we can talk a lot about that. And this is my closure. So the idea of now is that we have to remember that we are one. We are so united, and the idea is to connect cultures, ideas, and worlds in one unique and one space and project as NOWS. Thank you.
Thank you, Estefanía. I wish to have a little more minutes with you later in this same meeting. So I wanted you to think a little bit, just in a few words for later, about your social projection, which is also for me very interesting and really connected to all this. But really short. Okay. So we'll go back to that. And then, well, I have to remind everybody, if I haven't said it, I think, but anyway, all our guests, thank you for being with us here from very different parts of the world. That if you have any comments or questions, you can just write them on the chat, and I'll be happy to keep looking at them, so that we can share with our artists. And also there's going to be a little time after we are all done with the presentations, so that you could interact with us as well. And thank you, Estefanía. It's really fascinating and interesting. Now we're going to go to Sylvia. Just let's try if your mic is on, Sylvia, please.
Yes, hi.
And yeah, so Sylvia Tenenbaum is a textile artist from Guatemala as well. And you are in Guatemala right now, Sylvia. And
yes.
So there's the two of you there. And well, Sylvia has been also doing very, very deep research into textile and culture and history, mainly in Guatemala, but not only there. And yeah, she's been able to translate all these great ancestral techniques into her very contemporary and one of a kind, I would say, not only tapestries, but also the aerial sculptures and yeah, a very, you know, one of a kind expression for textile. So Sylvia, please tell us a little bit about yourself and then go into your work as well, because I know people will be fascinated as well to see it.
Hi, thank you everybody for being here. I hope you can just thumbs up if you're clearly hearing me. Excellent. Well, my background is very varied because I started working in, making hats, making pillows, making objects, and life really turned the corner and showed me that there was an artist inside of me. So I started to explore textiles, which being born in Guatemala, having the luck and privilege of growing to the market with my mother, seeing the indigenous women and men with their costumes or their clothing, their skirts and their huipiles and their belts. There was a language there that I unconsciously inherited, and it's been very much part of who I am. And I have a wide lexicon of textures in my work, which I'm going to bring up a presentation. And I'm going to share. Oh, I'm so sorry about this. I'm going to start with my most current work, which is a piece that is not made out of textile, but it's made out of a book, which is also a natural fiber. This piece is called El Señor Presidente, based on a very famous worldwide book, El Señor Presidente de Miguel Ángel Asturias, winner of the, Ceci, help me out here.
Is the Literature Nobel Prize from Guatemala, Miguel Ángel Asturias, el señor presidente. But he got it for his whole work.
This book is going to be almost 100 years old. And in Guatemala, we still continue to live in a very non-traditional, non-linear way, where things still happened after 100 years. We're still experiencing very much, something very natural, very artisanal. And this is a close-up. I used bottle caps to represent the immediacy of life here in Guatemala, where everything is pretty much disposable. And here we have a Nobel Prize winner book. I used the first and a third edition to tell the story of a story that repeats itself over and over again, and how we are constantly being questioned about the worth of our lives. This is called Pena de Muerte, o su variante, Pena de la Vida, which is a turning point phrase from the book. And it's a very poetic book, and he is one of our most valued writers, among others. So this was a special piece that was created for an outdoor
exhibit, public space, right?
Public space, exactly.
Sylvia, could you just please, I'm sorry, could you just do the full screen
Oh,
Come
I'm
on.
so sorry. What do I do
I
here?
think that's,
Down in the right down there. Down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
like no,
is that
no,
it?
to the left. No,
On the bottom.
on the
Okay,
bottom beside the volume. Yes, to the left.
That
First, no,
Uh,
no, no. Beside it, to the left.
besides, a la
Yeah.
par del volumen, ahí hay una como pantallita.
Abajito, la pantalla.
Ahí, ya.
Como
No, no,
la tele.
esa es
Sa-
derecha,
ay, perdón.
a la izquierda.
This is the life of this year,
Abajo.
right, everybody?
No, 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 no,
Abajo,
Sylvia.
abajo, abajo.
Zach. Ay, ay.
A la
Zach,
par del
ayude.
volumen.
I'm so sorry, everybody. This is my first time sharing a screen.
Down. Abajito, abajo.
¿Dónde está
Al lado del volumen.
Ya me asoma abajo del volumen. Oh, gosh.
Abajo.
Okay, there we
Ahí
go.
está. Perfect.
I am so sorry, everybody.
It's fine.
Okay.
It's all right. It's life.
Okay. Okay. So this I work in a very large scale. It's something that happened naturally. Because maybe I don't know. We're all very large in our families. We like everything big. And local companies that have been selling beer and soft drinks. And so there's a dialogue about, social inequalities. And as you can see, there's a little bit of the snake that eats the books to tell us that, we are very fragile and we are vulnerable and we need to be aware of what is life worth. This is a piece that was presented in the London Design Biennale. I worked alongside Diego Olivero. Ceci Orive was our coordinator. She was the one that brought us. And we created a project called Palopo, which is a social economical project in Lake Atitlan to rescue a village through painting the houses and designing them to create an attraction to bring more people to Lake Atitlan and to give people the tools in Santa Catarina, Palopo, to be able to sustain themselves and be proud of their heritage. So we recreated. The mural is made out of more than 2,000 strings hanging 8 meters wide by 4 meters high. This is a large scale, monumental, and we are very proud because we won a People's Award for this piece, and all the textile that you see is textile that was either woven for the piece or it was bought from the women and the men from Santa Catarina, Palopo. So I work mainly with used textiles that have a history, that have been used by generations and passed from mother to daughter, from or grandmother to mother to daughter, and have a memory, have a memory. Each textile has a memory, has a story, has a scent, has a feeling. It's all about feeling, like Estefanía mentioned, about thread and being in a cocoon. This piece of Palopo represents like being inside a cocoon of Lake Atitlan, where you are surrounded by these villages that each one contains their own culture, their own colors, their own language, their own symbols. And the symbols that you see in these little wooden houses that hang from the ceiling are what represents the symbolism that is used in their textiles, in their huipiles. And the white wall, the theme of the Biennale in 2018 was your emotional states. So Guatemala got hope. And for me, the white wall, 8 meters long of white textile, which was very difficult to get because it's not very common, represents the hope, the tabula rasa, the beginning of something new, the creation of that white page where we could fill it with that new hope for a better future for everybody.
Thank you,
Then
Sylvia. This is
yes.
another use of the same or similar technique, right? For a more abstract, even more abstract piece that you're showing us right now, right?
That's the same technique taken into a more sculptural representation of the work. This is 7 meters high, the ceiling, so you can imagine what a work that must have taken to bring it. It has light inside, and this is made for this home. And I created a space that was called family. The colors that you see here, I don't have any real close-ups, but you can see that inside it represents the space of holding, of containment, of being inside a family. And for me, you know, textile also means family, because when people weave, they weave among their family, they weave among their friends. It's a way of women communicating with each other, of showing their sharing their emotional states. And so also it's birth giving. They say that weaving in a hand loom, you know, like backstrap loom, it's like the movement is like a rocking movement. So it's like giving birth. So you're constantly creating with the threads.
Beautiful.
I'm going to, the next piece is another very large piece, and the subject matter is very strong, and it's called the unnamed, lo innombrable.
Yeah,
This is
unmentionable, I would say, probably is, yeah, maybe.
it's the name of lo innombrable. Oh, I can't remember right now, Ceci.
Something like unmentionable, like something you don't want to mention, kind of.
Yes,
right?
It's something we don't want to remember. And this is, as if anybody can recognize it, this is the map of Europe. And this has been made as a memorial for the Holocaust Museum in Guatemala City. It was a work of love, really. For me, this has been one of the strongest, most breathtaking pieces I have made, because I am Jewish and I hold very dear all the people we lost. Besides that, I know it's a subject that is very tough, but in this close-up, you can see that I represented through the use of triangles what happened in the war. If you can see closely towards the middle upper hand side, you see some sparkles and you see some bullets and you see some yellow stars. Those represent the death by bullets in the Holocaust. That was something that was never really mentioned in Eastern Europe, and it talks about the massacres. So in this map, I have included every single atrocity that happened in Europe between 1936 to 1945. And so I use variation of the grays to the ashes and, you know, all the history. But as you can see, it's a very visual piece. I also introduced the use of color to also lighten up the subject, but every single piece has a story in the map. And I don't really want to get into it, but you know, you can go into my website. I'm happy to connect with anybody who wants to know more about this piece about the Holocaust, because there's a lot of stories, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of layers, and there are some happy moments as well. Also, I want to mention that this piece was made with fabric from a project called the New Denim Project, which uses repurposed jeans and secondhand clothes, and they reuse it, creating a sustainable process and making thread out of it. And almost, I would say 80% of the fabric was made by the factory here in Guatemala, the New Denim Project. And they are incredible, and they are, you know, their heritage is also, you know, survivors of Holocaust ancestors. This piece, again, we go back, I'm going kind of in a chronology from back to forward, walking between extremes. It's more lighter, and it's about, you know, how life, you have the opposites always, you know, you're either, you know, you're walking between grays and whites and blacks, and, you know, so we move, and you can't really see the detail, but there's a lot of metallic threads. And this is also using the repurposed indigenous wear. This is, you know, something a little more historical. It's again textile, more in a tapestry. This is self-explanatory, I think, and it was inspired by my brother Robin. And so, you know, this was one of my first pieces of the mosaics, which was the one that started me on all this journey. This is a two-dimensional piece, and there was a view of, you know, the volcanoes, the sun coming out, and it's very abstract, but it's a wonderful piece. And here we go. These were the first tapestries that I made. So I work with a lot of color. For me, color is a language that comes very naturally, like I explained at the very beginning. And these were small studies of maps. And I was lucky enough that also Cecilia, Ceci, was invited me to go to the other art fair in London in 2013. And that was the beginning of my journey. Being here today and sharing with you these maps were the studies for larger maps that are showing in California. And I did not put the piece that's shown in the gallery, but I'm happy to share it later.
No, it's for
So,
people that are close to LA, that they have to go and visit the exhibit and enjoy that beautiful works that Maria Adela curated there, right?
so part of the studies of these cartographies are because we're recreating. Guatemala, for me, represents a lot of territory, a lot of earth, a lot of land, a lot of crops. You know, we're surrounded by volcanoes, so we're very deep. We go very deep, and it's very important for me to show that we can always retrace our steps and build new ways of walking and coming forward, and really honoring the ancestral textiles that are such a rich part of our culture. And I'm going to stop sharing
Thank you,
and just tell you
Sylvia.
that as you can see, I am blonde, I am white, I'm tall, I'm nothing like a typical Guatemalan, but in my heart, I really honor and treasure my roots, my European roots, but as well, I honor very much my Guatemalan roots and my sense of belonging, even though they always think I'm a foreigner, and I will always remain like a extranjera. I'm very, very proud of my, you know, of inheriting that ancestral textile heritage, because my father was also in the textile business. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sylvia. It's a beautiful ending for your presentation, because we are going now to our curator for this exhibit. And thank you for inviting me again to moderate this. And I think that's a very, very nice cue to link you guys together, because it's also one of the one poem from Miguel Ángel Asturias, the writer you mentioned, our Nobel Literature Prize, talks about how being a foreigner, el exilado forever, you know, like being a foreign in your own country sometimes feels. And well, I think Maria Adela, after more than 25 years having moved to LA, she's still a foreigner there. And maybe all of us who have been living away, when we go back home, we still feel also a little bit foreign. So I think there's a link between the four of us there, where we are kind of a little bit here and a little bit there sometimes. But way to go, girls, because something good has happened for all of us, as to be very creative and perhaps even more intense on that connection to our beloved hometown. And in this sense, I think Maria Adela speaks for itself. Her work is really, really connected to the more intimate and personal way of perhaps living this, because that's how she expresses herself. But I don't want to ruin it. I think you are the best to explain to us, Maria Adela. So please go ahead and share your screen with us, please.
Thank you. First, I'm just going to say thank you so much, Cecilia. I mean, we've been knowing each other for a couple of years now, working together. And I appreciate the, you know, what we're doing now and the way you introduced me to Estefanía and Sylvia, and I got to get to know them. So for me, this show has been a really rewarding show to get to know the artists, and not only the ones that are here, but the ones that I went and visit myself in Guatemala, brought the art here, that give me a lot of knowledge about, you know, what's going on right now over there. So I think all this is amazing. And my intention was to really open up that window of opportunity to connect the two worlds, right? Like you said, I've been here for a long time, but I still work with my kind of roots connected to Guatemala. So I just want to say a little bit about me really quick, about what my practice is, because I consider myself a multidisciplinary artist. I work in different media, mainly performance, installations, and I'm also a designer, a feminist, and a mother, and I want to be activist as well. And I'm particularly interested on working with my body on subjects that have to do with gender and politics. Through my career, I learned how my personal narratives are connected to the world narratives. So I feel like that is what make my work a little bit, I mean, I don't know if I'm Latinx or I'm Guatemalan artist yet. It's that kind of connection. I think we all feel that way in a way if you're not in your country or you work in another country. But as a designer too, I work on trying to look for problems and getting solutions for that. And so my work pretty much expresses how I want to solve a lot of social issues, right, with the work that I do. And using my body has given me that opportunity to transform myself as well and grow as an artist. So I kind of want to start with a video that I created here in LA. The name is Borderline, and it talks about the migration, you know, and it talks about how unstable migrating can be, right? And pretty much you will see in the video, my, let's say, concept is pretty much as a cathartic, the bounds of my exile. So I'm gonna start sharing.
He's not sharing, Maria. Maria Adela, I can't see it. Are you sure you're sharing?
Oh, you can see it?
No, I think,
Oh.
yeah, I think one step was,
Okay, let me know when if you see it.
yes, I'll
Okay.
tell you.
Are you seeing it now?
No, Nina.
Can you see it? No? Mm. Okay, something happened. but
There
now-
you go. Okay, so now that
Okay.
there it is now. So perfect. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. Sorry about that. Okay. So this piece really, like I said, it talks about this unstable situation of being an immigrant and not knowing what's going next. That was part of my personal experience. And I think that a lot of the people that I know and that I met literally go through this situation, and only if you leave it, you know what it is. And so I really wanted to put it out there in the world to communicate that stage. So my work pretty much has a lot to do with the real issues in society, and also connected to my personal experiences. This was actually a public intervention, which I do a lot. And that's how I started also in Guatemala, creating and doing performances. They are pretty much working on the streets and kind of like connecting with the communities and the real people, not the people on a gallery, for example. This is another public intervention that I did in Venezuela. It's a performance with, I planted 50 women. They were actually an open call where I invited people to collaborate with me. Being Venezuela, one of the places, countries in the world that has a really high rate of women's trafficking and sex slavery and stuff, I was worried, and I was invited to work there. And one of my research is really finding out what are the issues that are also connected with my, the subjects that I want to work on. So I had 50 women planted by men. And they were really also excited to kind of work with the community, and knowing how interesting these people was to collaborate on this piece. Women knew, right, what the issues were in that community, and they collaborated with me. The installation was kind of like a surreal in the middle of the city of Venezuela. And at the end, I was not participating, let's say, as I always do in my performance, this was more a collective performance. And then my way to say thank you to them is that I wash their feet after the performance, one by one. I was washing their feet. This is just a documentation of a little bit, really short, of me washing their feet as a, you know, gesture of saying thank you for it. And it was a really intense performance, but I really also enjoyed that connection with other women. And they're really grateful. They were really grateful of me doing that piece. This piece is called Status Quo. It happened in Guatemala City. In my country, being a patriarchal society, women are often oppressed and violated by patriarchal societies and also the capitalism systems. And so mainly operated by men. These behaviors are like not accepted to me. So for what I did is kind of like, I wanted to create this structure of a metal structure where guys were actually how you call that, welling me and locking me down in this space. And I have a little short video too, just for you to see what the story is.
So you were welded inside?
Yes. It was raining. It took, this performance literally took like an hour or more. So this is just a short video where after I was locked down, I opened up the structure and escape from it. And this piece really talks about, for me, I think violence, when it penetrates in your personal space, it's no longer your space. So you become trapped in a space that you cannot control. And pretty much for me, that's being part of the status quo. And for me, being a feminist and a woman, I fight for that. I really fight every time to break those systems, to know that, to let people know that it is possible to break them. It's just that we have to be courage to do that. This is another piece that I did in Croatia. This is another public intervention. The pieces right here where you see the boat with 5 immigrants, where this is, again, I was invited to the performance festival. And even if it was on a museum and an institution, I want to bring my art outside so I can reach different audiences, and I can also reach the communities that are affected for these issues. So In Transit pretty much was an installation that we were immobile for 4 hours. This was the view from the bridge. Pretty much it was not announced, right? So everybody was just walking and seeing this boat, wondering what it was. And even being in Europe, and this happened also in the Drava River, which is one of the most important Central Europe rivers, where in the past there were colonies of immigrants were passing through that. So it starts pretty much in Italy and ends in Croatia, and close to the Danube River. And so the Danube River also had some wars and some other issues that had a lot to do with politics and migrations. So for me, it was really important at this contemporary times talk about what it is and what it was to see an image that is on the papers all the time, but people try to ignore. So this performance really was 4 hours being in the same spot in this boat. We were totally immobile. People didn't know what was happening. So I think that it created a lot of questions. It was in the news and everything because people couldn't realize, or maybe they were in shock pretty much to see that happening. But for me, it was a totally different perspective because this was happening in the real life at the moment in that 2016. This is another piece, performance that I just did in lockdown in 2020. During the COVID, we all know that the cases of domestic violence and feminicide were at the highest rates, right? So, and pretty much women are often have less resources to defend themselves. And what I did, I created this masks with a rice paper that didn't allow me to breathe. So I was sewing this insulting words that some were directed to me and some to friends. And because I was investigating at that time what what words were saying in the households of all these women. So, and I've been also called all this, I've been called illegal, crazy, stinky, bitch, crazy bitch, all these things that usually, really feminist approach for me. But I also feel like art is a part of my transformation, and through my body, I can, transform and kind of like curate like those issues, right? Kind of to keep them out of the system, not only me, but also knowing for new generations, kind of teaching them of this is not okay. The video itself is on my website, you can see it, but it is really, really hard to see. And the idea was exactly that me suffocating with this mask was a really act of, mainly, I call it like, it's not transformation, but more like take the trauma right out of your body with this action. And so, like I said, this happened in pandemic time, which is a video performance that I created myself, pretty much a video performance. So this is part of another pieces that I'm recently working on. In this part of the piece, there's actually on the gallery right now an installation where I visit a state park that was just burned here in Ventura, and I collect these pieces of wood that for me look like pieces of dead bodies. And so I tried to rescue them, and I tried to clean them out, and I brought them home. I took the skin off, like I was like a part of like taking care of the species. But also at the same time thinking that nature, we are the same thing. We are one for me. So, and it's called natural dichotomy, because usually humans, we think that we are separated from nature, but the reality is that we're not. And we are the ones who actually are also destroying or building this nature environment. And so for me was trying to rescue, give them another life. And this is the view of the installation. And also the lighting and the dramatic lighting on this was part of the intention of the piece. Also the ashes that are underneath. When you walk in the gallery, you can take that in your feet with you. So it's part of like some sort of like installation that can also, you can bring part of it, because when you're in those moments and you see a whole entire park burned out, you get in shock and you really think you're like in pretty much in the Holocaust, right? Like with all this dead trees, that it's so devastating for me. And so for me, it was that idea of rescuing them and bringing them to life again. And this is a new project that I'm working on, and it's going to be part of the London Design Biennale, which Cecilia is the curator, and that we've been working on for 2 years. This is an interactive sound installation made with about 60 rain sticks. And for those who know what a rain stick is, a rain stick is this instrument that when you move it, it imitates the sound of the water and the sound of the rain. And so for me, the idea was to have a structure where everybody can touch it and everybody can play with it, to evoke that sound of water in a room. And I feel like by the interaction of people was really important to me. And it's been in all my career, I think, important to people, for me, to people to touch art, to experience art, as opposed to just have, you know, something to hang in your house. I feel like the experience is more important because it changes and it transforms people. So this installation, like I said, is made of this rain sticks. So when people touch them, they're gonna be making the whole room being as a waterfall or a rain room with just the sound. I'm also collaborating with this amazing musician and a different total generation of me, different than mine. He's a master musician, Joaquin Orellana, and I'm so proud to work with him. He is collaborating, working. He already worked on this beautiful piece to be played together with this structure. And so this is going to happen in June this year. This is just a rendering, and I'm sorry I don't have any other, because it hasn't happened. So it's just a sketch
A work in
of
progress.
how it will look. Yeah, work in progress, exactly. So, and for this also, it's one of the biggest projects that I have worked, because I have different teams of people working with me. In Guatemala, I have architects, marketing people, I have the musicians that already work with me. And then in London, I have Cecilia with all the Somerset House, where is this going to be display, with all these professional people helping me to create this, designers and architects, etc., etc. So I think this is exciting. We are in the process of kind of like getting it done. And I will pretty much end with this. This is how the interaction will be, you know, kind of like with the people, playing with them as part of this huge problem that we have, which is the loss of water. And I feel like, again, humans, we are part of nature, and we are part of we're responsible. We are totally responsible for what's going on. And I think that when you do an installation like this, working with the communities, all your senses are involved in it. And somehow when you leave that room, you have a conscious, or you have an awareness of what to do, you know, with the environment. And it's a really sensorial experience, and that's what I really wanted to have on that room. We also have a connection with a video that was made in Guatemala a month ago, And so I think that, I mean, this piece will really trigger people about, you know, what's next. I mean, if we lose the water, that is so important, and it's like water for me is like blood. Without it, we cannot live, and any species will live in the world. So, and that is what I have.
Thank you, Maria
I
Adela.
didn't do too
So-
fast.
No, so it's great because I think that as the progression of your presentation, we can actually see those different, as I call them, well, now people who is now joined us and whoever watches this video know that I have the chance not only to moderate this beautiful talk for Equinox at City Gallery, but I've also had the chance to work with these three different artists, and they are deaf, and that's really a very lucky and deep experience for me with each one of you, my dear friends. And I'm almost into tears now just remembering all those different stanzas where we have been able to share, and the emotion goes because I know there's so much more. Like, I can't wait to see what's next from each of you. And in the case of Maria, who also was generous enough as to take time from her own project that's big enough and complicated enough as to take the chance and just, you know, bring all these artists together to LA in the moment where nobody would be like planning anything. So really, I think this is where we need to see, this is how what we need to transmit to all of you now connected, and whoever is going to watch this video and come to the gallery. There's a lot to move forward for, and there's a lot to be done. And even though these are the most challenging times perhaps that the globe has faced recently, I think moments like this and the amazing creativity that we have seen happening this year is just exampled, just a taste for these three people. And I know if we could have like a few more, we would be amazed as well. So just look around, keep moving, and keep creating, everybody. I'll take the chance also to mention again how Maria Adela's work is, like, I think, goes in a spiral, and she's able to bring her power onto topics that are very personal to herself. And then she's also worried about her community, her alike people, like her community, her story, her country, fellow female, not only compatriotas, but fellow country people, but everyone else, the humanity. And then she grows back to the nature itself. So it goes from a very intimate stanza to a very global one. And she's very good at dealing with all these different issues that worry her and that called her attention. I think we have just an example, these three women, if we could have all of them here, I think we would find that thread. And I would like Maria to just share a little bit of what it is to have another discourse now through the voices of all the other artists as a curator now. So just share with us, and then I'll read all the names of the artists that are in Equinox right now.
Okay, yeah, I was so excited, like I said at the beginning, about having this show, and also bring in culture and artists from Guatemala to have that window of, you know, community opportunity to exchange, right? What artists are doing now, here or there. For me, it shouldn't exist any borders, to be honest, and in this sense, and that was my intention. And part of the intention too is to get to know, like next week we have another talk with 3 more artists. They're local in LA. So I feel that if we all put a little bit of effort, you know, to create these conversations, we can grow as an artist, as persons. And I feel like that's my goal. One of the things that inspired me the most is that it's kind of like connecting with, for example, an indigenous weaving artist that is in Guatemala who's creating contemporary art that can totally communicate with Sylvia, for example, all those different layers of construction, and how females we always try to do those weaving of like connecting each other and helping each other. There's a few other young artists that I brought in too that are talking about poetry. They're talking about female violence as well. So I think this show has a one thing in common, which was rebirth, kind of like talking about how we as a woman can also express ourselves and any issue or even in any inspirational subjects that we have, and connect and learn from each other.
Great. So I also think that I wrote what I've been looking at what's these common grounds, or let's say common places or known places as they're called in literature. And I find a few. For instance, besides our like Latin roots and all this, being part of the diaspora in a way, but I do find a link to literature that's very strong, because all of you also write beautifully, sometimes poems. Maria writes poems as well as Estefanía, that I know that have been publishing them as well. And Sylvia is very inspired as well in the literature, and she's really a deep researcher. I think that some time ago as well, we discussed a little bit on how mathematic she is in her approach. And I think that this linkage to really paying attention in a way, and really reacting and sensing, and like kind of digesting the energies around us, and then just putting it back into an art piece. That's the magic you have. So thank you so much. And now I'll just read the names of all the artists that are included in the expo, because I think it's very, very important. So thank you for your work. If you ever see this video, Angélica Cerech from Guatemala. Gracias, Angélica, por tener la fe en María Adela y dar tu trabajo para que se vea en Los Ángeles. Es muy importante para todas conocerte. Audra Lucas from Ventura, California. Constanza Di Giorgio from Ojai, California. Estefanía Valls Urquijo from Guatemala. Holiday Mason from Los Angeles. Jessica Laguna, Guatemalan, based in New York. Joanne Debie from Ventura, California. Margot Porres from Guatemala. Patricia
Trigueros.
Behum?
Trigueros.
Patricia Trigueros, from El Salvador. And then we also have Patricia Behum from Ventura, California. Sorry for this. Peggy Powdell from Los Angeles. Rebecca Sterling from Ventura, California. Randy Matushevitz from Los Angeles. Cheyenne Happens from Ventura, California. Sue Franco from Mexico and the US. Sylvia Tenenbaum from Guatemala, Veronica Riedel from Guatemala, and of course, Maria Adela Diaz from Guatemala and Ventura. I think that you have inspired us. We have a few comments of felicitaciones. Thank you, of how impressive your work is. And I think I fall short to really express the gratitude. I think that we need to try to look for each other, and in the sense that just make a little bit of an effort to try to find people like you, because it's a big relief, cathartic, energetic, and social, to find you guys and to see how you can really do this job as part of the society. It's a relief, it's an understanding. And it's also a making sense of things when we see your work. I think somebody else wanted to participate. Is it true, Randy? Probably, no? No, I thought you were raising your hand, I'm sorry. So if somebody else needs or wants to make a comment, this would be the time if you want to join
Well, I'll
the
just say it's
conversation.
lovely to meet everybody. As an artist from Los Angeles in the show, and to
Great.
hear the other artists speak and share, and to hear you speak and share. And Maria and I have been connecting, and it's just an honor. And I'm happy to meet you.
Oh,
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you, Randy. And believe me, I'm in London, so I feel like I need to bring you all here. Like I have to see how we make Maria Adela do something like that. Maybe in a year time or something, but because
This would be a good problem.
I literally put the artwork in my luggage. But
yes.
you know, somebody said it's wrong to do that, so I did it.
No, of course we have to find
just
ways.
send a link. Don't worry, a link, a USB. Don't worry, I'm easy.
Yeah,
that's true. There's also that's also the creativity. Like I think that as a summary of this very inspiring talk and sharing moment, I would say that it's important, and this is why I really commend the welcoming of the gallery for this project, because if you don't see who did each of these works, you really can tell how important they are. So even though they're done in a female way or by a female artist, it's the voice of everybody. It's beautiful to kind of connect in that sense. And I think that's the important thing, that we have the possibility to speak for everybody and to everybody as well. So thank you so much. I think we have a beautiful future. I hope everybody gets to meet each other soon, and that we are able to make all these pieces travel and for people to enjoy them as well. Is there anything else you need to share, Maria? Details on the exhibit, I think, are important.
I had a question for Estefanía.
Oh, great.
Just regarding your miniatures, right? The miniatures that you have. I just wondering, how do you create those, let's say, in a real life? If you work with an architect, or you do it all yourself, or how how the dynamics are, for example, to build something like that?
Well, yes, I need help. Yes, for sure. But construction workers, because it's not a science. It's just building, putting blocks together with cement, and then given the form. In big pieces, it's stronger. You need strong work, but it's building. It's like blocks. So it's not that complicated. Yes.
So you direct your construction people, okay?
I do it with them. I have these plantillas, these inside
Like
structures
blueprints.
to build them. But then they support themselves. So it's not that complicated. Yes.
Nice. No, I was just wondering that.
Yes.
Well,
and also I do one have for Sylvia again. Sorry, for Sylvia.
Yes.
I know when I visit your studio, you talk about having a range of people, right, working with you. I kind of wanted to know a little bit of how do you get, who helps out with the weaving and the construction, for example, of those aerial maps.
I have in my studio, I work with a mother and daughter that have been working with me for quite a bit of time. I have my right and left arm, Valentin, who's been with me for over 10 years, and I brought him to London. It was his first trip abroad. So it's it's like my family. They're my equipo, and I work with many weavers and artisans in the country, because I have been working at this in different ways for a while. So I also like subcontract certain things with weavers in the highlands if I want specific fabrics. Or when I'm working in the big maps, you know, so I scout for specific, you know, clothing from the indigenous. So when I did like the map that is in the gallery, you know, it's this one of 3 maps, the weaving geographies. I went to Quiche on like a 5-day journey. And then I had people organize the community to bring me textiles. And then I would choose because I had, you know, specific things in mind. So I buy from the local communities and then I bring them back and I deconstruct the textiles to then reconstruct the art or the tapestry or the maps. Or so for me it's about rebuilding, like, you know, a bit like Estefania's work where she's building these temples that contain, you know, the soul, and a little bit of like your work, which is to I don't know, rescue or
Yeah,
do we
rescue, reconstruct, maybe.
you know, to recreate and repurpose and give new life to something that might no longer be of any use. So that's how I've been working for
Thank you,
quite a
Sylvia.
time.
I think that the other point where I could see a link between you guys is restoration, perhaps, like something
Restoration.
that's comes to mind because all of you have like a peripheric view, I would say, because you're aware of the past as well and looking into the history and finding how elements from that history have to really be considered and take it back so that we don't go into those mistakes again, or so that we keep and preserve certain things that we want to preserve. So I think all of you in very different ways are always taking back and from history whatever is valued and necessary. So it's a bit of restoration, I would say, because it's a transformation of that history with a very strong proposal as well, because I think it's not only beauty for beauty, but I think that you have a proposal. It's a very strong one in different ways. So it's nice to be challenged as the viewer by you guys. Randy, you wanted to say something.
I wanted to say, and in English, maybe because it's the English a little bit, the word that came to my mind was resurrect, like thinking of a phoenix and giving a new life more than to, it is restorative, but the resurrection is the continuing of the old. And then we should all take out our dictionary and decide which is the, you know, which words are better, because we can argue this alone for hours, right?
All of them are good,
So,
I think, at this point.
yes, but I just wanted to share that.
Very, very, very nice. Nice, Randy. Now I want to see more of your work as well. So, well, so I think it's been a wonderful meeting. I don't know if Estefanía had a question or maybe Sylvia. I think that now I really want to see what's next from all of you, and I really want to motivate you to keep going and keep growing. And why not think of collaborations, which is also another thing that came about during this presentation, which is, well, I'm fascinated by teamwork and collaborations as a curator as well. So, yeah.
So I do have a question for Maria Adela, because I see there's like a, you know, a thread with water. It's a recurring theme in your work from the very start. I'm fascinated by water too. So, you know, what is your like connection? Is it that, you know, maybe you tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that I always been around water. And since it goes back to when I was a kid and I grew up, you know, in Guatemala, and I was really close to water, always experiencing rivers, mainly rivers with, you know, all this amazing, how you call that? Like, not waves, but like the water was alive. The water gave me all this inspiration. And that's the nostalgia that I have, right? And that's why a lot of my pieces are related with water, because I feel like that's the source of life and the source of inspiration for me. Like if I'm close to it. Here, I live close to the ocean, which it makes me so happy. I mean, it gives me a peace of mind. I don't know why. That, you know, have that element close to me. And also I see that water also is part of like this connection with immigration, with also your own self, right? We are made of water, and literally without that element, we're gonna die, right? So I just feel like myself, for example, with nostalgia, is my worry about losing that resource. And if we are experiencing now, we're losing it, right? And I really want to rescue that. And I want to do as much as I can to make people conscious and aware of what's happening. Because in some places of the world, they're, floating. I mean, they're like in Venice, right? They're floating, and in other places of the world, there's no clean water at all. And so all those things are really issues that worry me, because I might be intuitive, but that's kind of how I feel inside. It's just like, yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. I would say, but I think water transforms people as well. It's kind of like some sort of like this spiritual material that can, give you life, so I think that's how I see it. And in migrations, I feel like it's the only way how the world is connected, through the water to the oceans. And there's a fluid, right? It flows around the globe. So I'm just finding that to be like a common element that we all need.
Maria, I'm sorry.
A moment that when I see you go inside your pieces, it makes me think about this going to the womb, going inside, and inside the womb there's water. The first element that we have contact to is water. So it's amazing how you go inside and then water is always around you, or your pieces. So this connection. So
that's true. It's true. Probably comes from that time. I really, it's like I said, I mean, a lot of my work, because I'm not coming from like the institutional art world, I am really intuitive, and I want to keep myself that way because I love to work this way. Everything that comes from me it's really part of what I want to bring to the world, So that's how I see pretty much this element.
Great.
Well, so I think we have heard from Sylvia very, very quickly how she works with the weavers and lots of different artisans, and really honors their work by not only, paying fair prices, but also I know that you have done a lot of training as well, and making sure that their products are, placed properly in different markets of exporting. And I think that's part of your social projection as well as others. And I also wanted to mention how Maria as well is she briefly gone there, but she really gives a voice to people who might not be able to speak for themselves, like migrants or victims of violence in many ways. So she's herself kind of borrowing her own body and voice to do that social projection. But as well, I know that right now with this big effort she's making with nostalgia, there's another great work of love, as many communities will be also touched by this process of learning how to better care of the water by planting more bamboo and by working with that material. So there's a huge project coming on there for her to have an impact as well in that kind of environment. And also, I think that importantly, culturally, she's also given a very important spot for this musician that we all admire in the country, but outside of there, very little people maybe know about him. So her generosity is to invite him to collaborate and give him a space so that future generations can actually be curious and just know about him. So I think those are beautiful ways of projecting and giving back to the different societies that we interact with. What I wanted just to Estefanía, but really, really briefly, to tell us a little bit of what your social projection is about.
Thank you. I write something just to be sure that
very
I'm
short.
quick. Yes, in 2013, I started a movement of empowering women, working women for women. From there, my project of muñecas and starting to learn about meditation, I decided to go and work in a women's prison in Guatemala and give them meditation and bring them silence. You know, these prisons in Guatemala, you don't have silence anywhere. They are full. A prison for 260 has 1,200, 300 women inside. So from this working inside there, I found another woman working, an American one, and said, would you go and work with men in a highly a prison for men that are very violent and because they heard about your work and your meditation work with these women. So I started to work with them. I will share just to show you. Let's see if I can do it. Compartir.
Ahí está la foto.
Here you see me in the middle of the group. I have been working with them for 6 years now. And as you can imagine, this has changed my life. Now I have the dilemma. What is more important for me, my art or my social work? And these things happen, you know, and from my work with them, I started a foundation for rehabilitation and reinsertion of prisoners. We have been working for 3 years now, not only working inside prison, but outside with centers for young youth that are part of the gangs. You know that in Central America, mostly Guatemala, Honduras, and Salvador, the big problem of violence is gangs, and these boys and girls that have no families here because of immigration again. And so they are alone in the streets, and the violence they generate is becoming a big problem, not only for our countries, but for America. The immigration is going, the problem is immigrating to you. So we are starting to work with the American government and looking out for a solution for all these guys inside and outside prisons. So this was quickly what we are doing. We have a web page. If you want, I can share it, and you go inside. It's in English and Spanish, and so you can look out for our work.
Thank you, Estefanía. Well, so I just wanted to mention all those different facets of each one of you, because I think that only shows, or like, let us see how multifaceted you all are. And I think, and again, I say, this time is just not enough to go as deep as I would like to, but just enough to at least give a taste of what our contemporary artists from Guatemala, from Los Angeles, and Ventura especially are about. And well, I think it's a closing time for us now. Thank you so much again, Maria Adela, for letting me kind of try to
Thank you guys, because I mean, this show happened because of you, you know, I mean, because all of you. So I feel like it's just the little thing I can do, and this was amazing. And I'm looking forward to do another one later on.
Oh, sure. Well, so thank you, everybody. I think
you.
that a few of you stayed with us all along, but this video is going to be shared later as well. So bye-bye, everybody. And
Thank you very much,
thank you for
everybody. It was
connecting.
fantastic.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Stephanie.